Ladies and gentlemen, when you grow older, it's easy to feel like you've been forgotten, like your value has somehow expired. But let me tell you something right now. God's daughters are never forgotten. You are never overlooked. You are never abandoned. You have a covering over your life that no one can take away. First, God protects you from loneliness. Even when that room gets quiet and the phone doesn't ring, He's there. His presence doesn't fade with time. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. When you feel alone, remember, you're in the company of the Almighty. Second, He provides. Maybe the resources don't look like they did before. Maybe it's a neighbor showing up with a meal, or a stranger offering you kindness. That's God. That's His hand moving in places you can't see, lining up blessings you never thought possible. Third, He gives you strength to stand tall. You don't have to accept disrespect just because you're older. You don't have to let people talk down to you. God empowers you to set boundaries, to walk with dignity, and to remind this world you are a child of the King. Fourth, He protects your spirit. Even when people walk away, even when family drifts apart, His love does not leave. He wraps you in a peace that doesn't make sense to this world, a peace that can't be shaken. And finally, He surrounds you with purpose. Your story isn't over. As long as you have breath, you have something to give, something to teach, something to inspire. You are living proof that God's faithfulness endures. So lift your head high. You are covered, you are loved, you are protected, always. When you sit alone in a quiet room, when the ticking clock is the only sound, when the walls start to feel closer and the air feels heavier, it can seem like loneliness is your only companion. It can creep into your thoughts in the earliest hours of the morning, or settle in your heart as night falls, whispering that no one remembers you, no one sees you, that somehow you've been left behind. But that is not the truth. God is there, and His presence is unshakable. His nearness is not a wishful thought or a comforting idea. It is a reality that has held generations before you and will hold you now. You might not feel it the way you expect. You might not see it with your eyes, but He has promised never to leave or forsake you. His Spirit does not grow tired of you, does not look away, does not get distracted. He is as close as your next breath. There is something powerful about knowing that God is not only aware of your circumstances, but has willingly chosen to enter into them with you. He is not watching from a distance, unconcerned or uninvolved. He is present in the silence, in the stillness, in the parts of your life that no one else witnesses. When you wake up and feel the ache of isolation, when you wish you could hear a familiar voice or feel a comforting touch, He is already there. His presence fills the gaps people cannot. His love wraps around you like a soft blanket that shields you from the cold of emptiness. You might remember seasons of your life when the house was full, children laughing, friends visiting, neighbors dropping by. You might remember the way your phone rang so often you had to silence it just to get a moment of peace. Now, the quiet can feel like a verdict, like proof you are no longer needed or valued. But God does not measure your worth by the number of people who check on you or the amount of noise in your living room. He treasures you simply because you are His. When the world's attention drifts, His gaze remains steady. He has always known the moments you would feel alone, and He has already made provision for them by giving you His Spirit. God's presence is not passive. It is active, alive, and sustaining. He is the one who whispers peace into your thoughts when anxiety tries to take hold. He is the one who reminds you of every promise He made, that He is a refuge, a fortress, a friend who sticks closer than a brother. When you are tempted to believe that no one sees your tears, He gathers them as precious. He understands the unique kind of sorrow that comes when you feel forgotten, and He alone has the power to turn that sorrow into quiet strength. There is no place you can go where He will not be, no season of life too obscure for His attention, no age too advanced for His love to pursue you. In the hours when you wonder if you still matter, he affirms your value again and again. You are his daughter, and that identity will never expire. He has promised that even when you walk through the valley, you will fear no evil because he is with you. That means when loneliness rises like a flood, his nearness becomes a shield. His comfort becomes an anchor. Sometimes his presence shows up through unexpected ways. Maybe it's the kindness of a stranger who smiles and holds the door open for you. Maybe it's a song that plays on the radio at just the right moment, reminding you of a time you felt strong. Maybe it's a memory he brings back to your mind, a moment you were certain of his love. These are not coincidences. These are small, holy reminders that you are seen and you are not alone. Even the smallest evidence of his attention is enough to sustain you, because it proves what your heart needs to know. He is with you still. There are times when the enemy wants to convince you that isolation defines your story, that you will spend the rest of your days unnoticed and unloved. But that is a lie. The truth is, God's presence has always been the most faithful relationship in your life. He is the one who was there before anyone else knew your name, the one who will remain after every season has passed. He is the one who keeps watch over you when you sleep, who listens when you can't find words to pray, who strengthens you when you feel too weary to stand. When people disappoint you or life changes in ways you can't control, his love does not change. His commitment does not waver. His presence does not fade. You may feel as though your best days are behind you, as though your contributions and influence have diminished. But God does not see you through the lens of this world's standards. To him, you are still precious. You are still full of purpose. He has placed treasures inside you that time cannot diminish, wisdom that younger generations need, faith that inspires those around you, courage that quietly shows what it means to trust God no matter your age or circumstance. His Spirit living within you means you never walk alone, never face a day unsupported. Even when family becomes distant, when relationships shift or dissolve, God does not step back. He draws closer. When your heart is aching for connection, he offers himself as the one who understands completely. He is the perfect listener who never interrupts, the ever-present companion who never tires of your stories. His attention is not divided. When you speak to him, you have his full focus, his full heart, his undivided affection. He will never grow weary of your needs. He will never tire of comforting you. His unshakable presence also means you don't have to pretend to be stronger than you feel. You can be honest about your loneliness. You can tell him about the ways you wish things were different, about the memories that hurt, about the longing you carry for connection. He does not dismiss your pain or minimize your feelings. He meets you there with compassion. He reminds you that even in your most vulnerable moments, you are safe with him. There is no weakness in admitting you need his closeness. There is only faith, the kind of faith that dares to trust that God's nearness is enough. When you sense that no one sees your sacrifice, the way you've loved and served and given so much of yourself, God sees every detail. He honors your faithfulness in ways no human can. He records your acts of love, your prayers whispered in the dark, your tears shed for those you care about. Nothing you have done has been wasted. Nothing you have endured has been overlooked. His presence is the proof that you matter beyond measure. In the days when you feel unseen, when you wonder if you still belong, let his Spirit remind you that you are never out of his sight. He is closer than your loneliness, stronger than your fear, more constant than any earthly relationship. His unshakable presence is your shelter, your source of strength, your assurance that you will never be alone. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and look around at what's left, and it feels like not enough. Not enough strength, not enough money, not enough help. The refrigerator might look a little bare. The mailbox doesn't hold the letter you were hoping for. The phone call you counted on never comes. It can seem like everything you once relied on has slowly slipped through your fingers. And you find yourself wondering how you're supposed to make it through one more day, one more week, one more season. But God has this way of showing up exactly when you're convinced there is no possible way forward. It doesn't always look dramatic or miraculous. Sometimes it's something so small you might almost overlook it if you weren't paying attention. It might be a neighbor who knocks on your door with a warm meal, saying they had extra and thought you could use it. It could be a discount at the grocery store you didn't expect, just enough to stretch what you have a little further. Maybe it's someone from church handing you an envelope with no name on it, only to discover it holds exactly the amount you needed for a bill you were too worried to mention out loud. He provides these resources in ways that remind you he sees everything. Every anxious thought you've entertained, every practical need that kept you awake in the dark, every prayer you whispered into your pillow because you were too tired or too ashamed to say it out loud. He listens even when you don't have words. He remembers even when you forget to keep asking. He does not grow weary of meeting your needs. He does not get tired of proving his faithfulness. Sometimes the help comes through people you don't even know well. Maybe someone whose name you can't remember steps up and says, "God put you on my heart." And in that moment, you realize he has been working behind the scenes all along, lining up circumstances you couldn't predict, arranging the hearts of people who didn't know how much you were struggling. You might never have shared your burden with anyone, but God already knew it. He was already orchestrating the provision before you even realized you would need it. There is something humbling and beautiful about experiencing help you did not earn, help you could not have orchestrated yourself. It reminds you that you are not in control of everything, and that's not a bad thing, because the one who is in control is wise and good and generous. He is not limited by the economy or by other people's willingness to help. He is not bound by the restrictions you see in your bank account or the limitations in your body. He owns it all, and he can command it all to bless you when you need it most. Sometimes his provision doesn't come in material form at all. Sometimes the resource you need is emotional, the strength to keep going when you're worn thin, the courage to stand up for yourself when you're tempted to shrink back, the peace that keeps your heart steady when fear keeps pressing in. You find yourself handling situations you never thought you could face, enduring conversations that used to leave you in tears, showing resilience that doesn't make sense in light of everything you've been through. That too is his provision. That too is his help. He gives you reserves of grace and perseverance you didn't know you had, because they didn't come from you in the first place. They came from him. Other times, the provision is relational. You might feel overlooked by the people you thought would always be there. Maybe your family is distant or friends have drifted away. And then, out of nowhere, God brings someone into your life who sees you. Someone who cares in a way that feels genuine, who listens without judgment, who offers support without expecting anything in return. It could be a friend who calls at just the right moment, a nurse who goes out of her way to treat you with dignity, a volunteer who makes sure you feel included. These relationships are not accidents. They are evidence that God knows how much you need community, how much you need kindness and understanding. They are reminders that He will never leave you to face life alone. It can be easy to downplay these moments, to chalk them up to coincidence or luck. But when you look back over the years, you start to see a pattern, a track record of God showing up in countless little ways, all adding up to a testimony you can't deny. You remember the times you were worried sick about how you'd make ends meet, only to have exactly what you needed appear in the 11th hour. You recall moments when your spirit was so heavy you didn't think you could get out of bed, but somehow you did, somehow you kept going. You remember how often you felt invisible, only to have someone notice you, affirm you, love you without strings attached. God's provision is rarely confined to one method. He doesn't just send you help through the obvious channels. He can work through systems, institutions, and strangers. He can use unexpected phone calls, chance encounters, or even your own memories to remind you that he is sustaining you. Sometimes you find an old card tucked into a drawer, words you needed to hear again. Sometimes you discover a forgotten resource, something you put away for later and now find just when you need it most. His timing doesn't always match yours. You might wish he would act sooner, that he would make the provision obvious long before the need becomes urgent. But again and again, he proves that he is never late. He waits until the moment you are ready to receive what he wants to give, until your heart is prepared to recognize the gift for what it is. And when it comes, there is no denying it. No explaining it away, only gratitude that feels too big for words. Some days, the provision is simply the assurance that you don't have to solve everything by yourself. The relief that comes when you realize you can let go of the constant worry and trust that he is working even when you don't see it. The freedom to rest, knowing you are held by hands that have never once let you slip through their grasp. You might not have every answer or every detail worked out, but you have his promise, and that promise is enough. When you tell your story later, people may not understand how you made it. They might look at your circumstances and shake their heads, unable to see the invisible safety net God wove beneath you. But you will know. You will remember the nights you cried out and the mornings you woke up to new mercies. You will remember the exact moments when help arrived out of nowhere, the conversations that brought unexpected peace, the strength that seemed to materialize when you were sure you had none left. You'll remember that God's provision isn't always what you would have chosen, and it doesn't always look impressive from the outside. Sometimes it's just enough for today, just enough to get through this hour, this task, this season. But that is the beauty of it. You learn to depend on him moment by moment, need by need. You learn to recognize his fingerprints on the ordinary details of your life. You learn to see that what the world calls small is actually sacred, that the daily bread he gives is evidence of a love that never runs out. When you find yourself wondering how you will keep going, when you feel the ache of uncertainty pressing down on you, remember all the times he has already come through. Remember how often he has provided resources you never would have known to ask for. Remember the unexpected help, the unearned kindness, the perfectly timed provision. He has been faithful every single time, and he will not stop now. There are seasons in life when the people you counted on seem to disappear. Maybe it happens slowly, almost imperceptibly, until one day you look around and realize the phone doesn't ring anymore. The invitations have stopped coming. The conversations have grown shallow or ceased altogether. Maybe it happens suddenly, like a door slamming shut, leaving you standing alone with questions that have no answers. In those moments, it's easy to believe that love itself has been taken from you, that you have somehow become unworthy of connection or belonging. But even when others withdraw, even when the relationships you cherish dissolve without explanation, God's love does not flinch or fade. He surrounds you with a presence so steady, so tender, that it begins to fill all the hollow places left behind by human disappointment. You might not feel that love in the ways you expect. You may be longing for a certain person's voice, a certain familiar comfort, a reassurance that comes from someone sitting across the table holding your hand. But God's love does not depend on anyone else's willingness to stay. It does not diminish when someone grows tired of offering support. It does not evaporate when circumstances shift and friendships fall away. His love is not measured by the affection you receive from others. It is measured by his own unchanging nature. He has loved you with an everlasting love, a love that began before you were born and will never reach its end. When everyone else withdraws, there is something profoundly healing about realizing God moves closer. He does not recoil from your grief or your confusion. He is not uncomfortable with your tears or embarrassed by your need. He does not grow impatient when you revisit the same wounds again and again. Instead, he surrounds you with a love so complete that it begins to quiet the voices telling you that you are too much or not enough. Sometimes you experience this love as a quiet comfort that settles over you when you least expect it, a moment of peace in the middle of turmoil, a sense that you are held, even though you can't see who is holding you. Other times, it comes through words that seem meant just for you, verses of Scripture that speak directly to your loneliness, reminders of promises you thought you'd forgotten. You might hear a song, read a devotional, or recall a memory that arrives like a lifeline, pulling you back to the certainty that you are still loved, still wanted, still known. There are days when the ache of absence feels almost unbearable. When you replay conversations in your mind, searching for what you could have said or done differently to keep someone from leaving, you wonder if you asked for too much, if you failed in some way you can't identify. You grieve not only the person, but the version of yourself that felt secure in their presence. In these moments, God's love surrounds you without condition. He does not ask you to tidy up your sadness before he draws near. He does not demand explanations or assign blame. He simply remains steady and unthreatened by your brokenness. His love is not fragile. It doesn't waver based on your moods or your doubts. You don't have to earn it with good behavior or the right words. You don't have to perform your way into his affection. You don't have to hide your disappointment in order to keep his approval. He already knows every thought you had, every wound you carry, every fear you've tried to bury. And still, he chooses you. Over and over, he chooses to love you in ways no one else ever could. Sometimes this love reveals itself through the people you least expect. A stranger offering a kindness that feels disproportionate to the situation. A neighbor who notices your absence and comes knocking to make sure you're okay. A caregiver who treats you with dignity when you feel you're most vulnerable. These moments are not coincidences. They are evidence of a God who sees you and orchestrates small mercies to remind you that you matter, that you are never invisible to him. Other times, his love meets you in complete solitude. When no one is around to offer comfort or witness your pain, he is there. In the quiet, he becomes the one who listens without interruption, the one who understands without judgment, the one who stays when everyone else has gone. His companionship is not dependent on circumstance. It is not diminished by the absence of others. It is constant, unwavering, and perfectly tailored to the needs of your heart. When people withdraw, it is natural to start believing their departure is a reflection of your worth. You may tell yourself that if you were more interesting, more accomplished, more lovable, they would have stayed. But God's love refuses to participate in that narrative. His love declares that your value was established long before any human relationship began. You were created in his image, designed for his delight, redeemed at great cost. Nothing anyone does or does not do can alter that reality. In the moments when you feel abandoned, he surrounds you with reminders of his faithfulness. The sun rising again after a long night, the steady rhythm of your own breath, the way your heart keeps beating even when it's heavy with sorrow. Every new day is proof that his mercies are new, that his love has not grown tired of sustaining you. You may feel alone, but you have never been unloved. Even your loneliness can become an invitation to experience his love more deeply. When the usual sources of validation disappear, you have the opportunity to discover that his approval is the only one that never wavers. You learn that your soul can be satisfied in him in a way it never was by the applause or affection of others. You discover that he is enough, not in a distant, theoretical sense, but in a practical, transformative way that changes how you see yourself and how you move through the world. This doesn't mean the absence of people stops hurting. It doesn't mean you stop wishing for companionship or longing for reconciliation. but it does mean you no longer have to be defined by who stayed and who left. You no longer have to measure your worth by who shows up. You are free to grieve what was lost while still standing firm in the truth that you are fully and irrevocably loved. There will be moments when you feel the weight of isolation pressing down on you, when you wish someone would notice the effort it takes to keep going. In those moments, God's love becomes the strength that undergirds your spirit. You may not feel strong, but His love is strong enough to carry you. You may not feel seen, but His eyes are always on you. You may not feel worthy, but He has declared you precious. Even the most reliable people have limits. They grow weary, distracted, preoccupied with their own struggles. Their capacity to offer love is finite, but God's love is inexhaustible. It doesn't run out when you need more. It doesn't diminish when you ask again and again. It doesn't falter when you can't reciprocate. He is not keeping score. He is not waiting for you to prove you deserve His attention. He is love itself, and He cannot be anything less. When you look back over your life, you will see countless moments when His love sustained you in ways you didn't even recognize at the time. You will see the evidence of His presence in the strength you found to keep moving, the hope that rose in your heart despite disappointment, the resilience that carried you through seasons of loss. You will realize that even when everyone else withdrew, He never once took a step back. He never withheld His affection. He never reconsidered His commitment to you. His love does not need an audience to be real. It does not require validation to be powerful. It is steady and unshakable, the truest thing about you. When the love of others grows cold, when their attention shifts elsewhere, when their promises fail, His love remains. He surrounds you with it in ways that are sometimes quiet and sometimes overwhelming, but always exactly what you need. He is the one who stays, the one who carries you, the one who loves you beyond what you can imagine or earn, even when life changes in ways you never expected, even when people you trusted drift away, when resources seem scarce, when loneliness creeps in, God remains constant. He is the one who protects you when you feel most vulnerable, the one who provides for you in ways you could never orchestrate, the one who surrounds you with love that does not fade or fail. His presence is your shelter. His faithfulness is your foundation. His care is the steady hand guiding you through every season. No matter what has been taken, overlooked, or withheld by others, you are never without His covering. You are never without His provision. You are never without His love. And as long as He is with you, and He has promised He always will be, you will have everything you need.